Hi everyone, welcome to the garage. Just thought I'd show you some work I'm doing on my Triumph Street Triple. The headlight has started flickering when the engines are idle. I noticed when I arrived home from work in the dark and the reflection of the headlight on the garage door was all flickering. So I think that means that the regulator rectifier needs replacing. On the earlier model bikes it was something that was a known issue and there was a recall for it. I think for my bike it's just a case of it's getting on for 7 years old and it's kind of time to replace it. So anyway, here we are in the garage and I'll show you what I'm doing. So in addition to the work on the bike, here's just a little update on our vehicle situation. There's our Volvo V60 D6 plug-in hybrid that we've had for 5.5 years now, and there's my new lovely year-old BMW S1000RR. There is a new addition to the garage and it has 4 wheels, and there it is. It's another Volvo. This is my XC90 Mark 1. It's 20 years old with 100,000 miles on the clock, but it's running nicely. It's a good car for the winter, a good car for transporting the family around. It's got 7 plush full black leather seats, and yeah, it's a nice addition to the garage, and quite a bargain price for Switzerland as well. So here's the Triumph Street Triple R, and the regulator rectifier is tucked away behind the rear shock. Now unfortunately that means to change it you've got to move the rear shock out of the way. I thought about how I could do this without removing the rear shock, the top bolt for the rear shock, but in the end I figured out a way of doing that, and what I've done is I've got some wooden shelving units and I've propped the bike up on those. I lifted the bike up on the paddock stand and I was able to lower it down onto the wood in such a way that it took the weight off the shock, and then I could get some tools in there and remove the rear shock just so I can move it back just enough. I also had to remove the rear brake cylinder. That was just that nut and bolt there, and just move that to the side out of the way, and this space here with this connector dangling down, and there's another one down below, that's where the old regulator rectifier was. Here is the old unit with the new unit that I've purchased online after doing a bit of research. That's the old unit. No visible signs of damage, but I'm guessing something inside has gone. I could probably do some measurements, electrical measurements to confirm that, but the whole thing, these units are potted. You turn it around, it's all encapsulated. There's no component level repair possible, I don't think. So I've sourced a new unit, and this one is slightly larger. The left hand side looks about the same. Mounting holes are just about the same place, but it sticks out a bit. I hope it's going to fit. I really do. But I got this online from a place called RM Stator, and it's an aluminium body which should be better for heat dissipation, but more importantly it's a MOSFET design rather than I guess a bipolar transistor, or a probably just a silicon diode design for the other one, for the rectifier anyway, the regulator. Yeah. So the MOSFET technology, what does that mean? Well, these days power MOSFETs, the series resistance, the on resistance of power MOSFETs is impressively low these days, and that means that less power is wasted as heat compared to the other sorts of bipolar junction transistor technology. Anyway, enough electronics. Next I'm going to fit the new one to the bracket, so that the bracket was on in here. Let me see if I can show you. So the bracket was kind of screwed on there, and it was impossible to remove that bolt because it clashed with the bolt from the shock. That's why I had to remove the shock. And then you have to get this out because it's a nut and bolt. It's a nut and bolt to put the unit on, and so you've got to stop the bolt itself from turning. This was bolted through the back. I'll show you. So that was in there, and that's the side that you can't get at because it's facing the bike like that. So yeah, it is needed to pull this whole bracket off in order to disassemble the part. So I'm going to put the new one on the bracket and bolt that in, and hopefully it's all going to fit. So that's the reg-rec on the, is that how you say it? Regulator rectifier, reg-rec. That's the new one on the old bracket. Only just fits. It's actually off centre. It's a bit wider than the previous one, and yeah, so but it does just fit on. I've torqued those up, and now it's a case of offering it up and really hoping that it doesn't clash when it's on the bike. Let's get it roughly back into place. I think it'll just be fine. I'm not going to change the connectors. I've got the old connectors here. They were a pig to remove. I did flood them all with WD-40 and then used a flat-bladed screwdriver. You've got to push this bit in, and then I used a flat-bladed screwdriver just to prise it apart. It got there eventually, but obviously having not been moved in 7 years, they were pretty tight on. But yeah, I'm going to clip those on, which I can't do whilst I'm holding my phone. So I'll clip those on, and then I'll be able to see whether it fits or not. So look at that. It's tight, but it does fit. Look, I'll get that hole aligned, that bolt in, and the connectors, there's enough space for them to go on. Everything's fine. So I'll get that bolted up, and then I can get the rear shock bolted back on. I'll have to look at the torque spec for that, I guess, and then I can get this bike off this dodgy setup of bits of wood. But it seems to be okay. It's not fallen on top of me or damaged my car or anything like that, so it's all good. So there's the bracket bolted back on. 2 bolts, 8mm. You can see that connectors are back in, it all fits. There we go. So next step is putting the rear brake reservoir back on. Well, I was a bit too hasty putting the rear brake reservoir back on, but I've managed to get my tools in to tighten up the shock bolt anyway. I'm just using my my socket set with a ratchet on the nut side, and you need a Torx. I think is it a T40 on the other side. I've happened to have bought a set. So that, and I've got my extension with my knuckle joint, universal joint thing on this side. That's enough to hold it still whilst I tighten the other side. So we're nearly there now. So everything's back together and it's looking good. No flicker there. No flicker there whatsoever. So I think I fixed it. I'm pretty pleased with that. I thought when I found that I needed to take the shock out or just move it out the way, I really thought that that was game over, that I'd have to go and see a professional to get that done. Nice sunny day now. But no, I've done it myself. It cost me about what was it? It's about 160 euros for the part, plus 30 odd francs duty and taxes to get it in from France. Couldn't find anything in Switzerland. No labour. Labour costs about that per hour in Switzerland, so I think I've saved myself a fair bit there. And yeah, brilliant. My winter hack lives on.